Hi there, this is Jason Bailey, writer-director of Gracie Rose. Thanks for watching the deleted scenes. I'm going to introduce them as briefly as I can and try also not to repeat myself too much from some of what we covered on the audio commentary. But I've got 4 deleted / extended scenes to show you. And the first one is actually sort of the most complicated. This was a scene that ended up being the only thing we really had to cut when we changed the chronology of the film. As we mentioned in the audio commentary, originally the film was constructed in a very linear fashion, and the parallel timelines with Eddie's confession was something we found in the editing room several months into the process. Originally, the way the film started was not with the scene at the door between Eddie and Gracie, but actually with the opening credit sequence where you see Eddie leaving somewhere and driving. And then we came into the scene where we first meet Deputy Charlie and Dan, where they're talking about a trip he made to the bar and his lack of success with Gracie. Originally, I liked this scene because I sort of liked the idea of meeting supporting characters first and hearing about one of our main characters before we met her. So that went there, and then where that scene lives now, there was a completely different scene between the two of them, but a scene that kind of said a lot of the same things. The repetition of Dan's life and his attempts to get Gracie sort of being the theme of that. When we changed up the chronology and moved that short scene to pre-credit, per Lonnie's suggestion, he also noted that it might be kind of disorienting for the viewer if first we meet our 2 main characters briefly, then we have the opening credits, and then we meet 2 other completely different characters. Thought the film would play stronger if after opening credits we went straight into Gracie and then straight into Eddie coming into town. Which I agreed with, and he was 100% right about, but we had this really nice scene where we met Deputy Charlie and Dan for the first time. What we realized was that we could pull that scene out from the opening, pop it into where that follow-up scene was after the bar sequence, and only lose that much shorter and not as strong, just because it was shorter and sort of repetition, scene that originally followed the bar. So I'm going to show you that scene now, which, like I say, in the original chronology followed the bar scene. This is more of Deputy Charlie and Dan.
Ship sailed, Dan.
She was just in a bad mood.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was just up there the other night, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I gotta give her the room and whatnot.
Right.
You know, I can, you know? You can play hard to get. I don't have to, you know.
Okay, so here's the second deleted scene, and again, unfortunately, Deputy Charlie and Dan were the victims of this cut as well. This one was not their fault in the slightest, not that the other one was, but this one was completely my fault, and here's how it happened. We had this scene where Deputy Charlie goes to Dan with the license, registration, vehicle information that Dan has been asking for about Eddie's car. And then Eddie says, or Dan says, "Why didn't you get the personal information?" And then we go to the scene where Deputy Charlie's making that call. The problem was that at the time we shot that scene, the car had not come on set yet. We shot all of Ernest's stuff early in the day at the gas station. He left, and then Jason Miller, Eddie, showed up with the car afterwards. I had only seen the car once. We had just gotten it a day or 2 before. I am not a car person. Obviously in the original script we just sort of had a vague car in there because we hadn't pinned down the car, so I told Ernest the wrong year on the car, and he says, and I may screw this up again, but I believe he says in the scene a 69 and it's actually a 59, and only someone who knows as little as cars as I do could be off by an entire decade. But by the time, you know, the moment Miller pulls into the gas station in the car, everybody but me knows immediately, and even I sort of realized that Ernest had said the wrong year. We tried to call Ernest. He was already long gone. So we said, oh, well, we'll loop it. But we really don't have the production facilities for looping, and that was sort of a disaster. And then as we were trying to figure out how we were going to solve the problem, I realized the scene wasn't necessary at all. That it was one of those scenes that I write to kind of get from one place to another, where if we get to where we're going, we'll figure out how it got there. So that was when we decided to lose this scene, and we could go straight into Ernest on the phone, finding out who Eddie Vega actually is. But this is that scene for you Ernest and Wellesby fans.
There now. Quit your bitching. The car's clean. 1971 Cadillac. Registered to one Edward Vega. No warrants, no tickets, no nothing.
Well, where's the stuff on him?
Danny, this is goddamn ridiculous. Look, I like the broad,
You know,
too.
I'm just saying, you know, maybe check him out too while you're at it. You know, I just assumed there'd be, I don't know, some kind of picture or...
Hi there. I need to talk to someone about a background check. Dargis County Sheriff's Department. Dargis County, Kansas. Thank you. Oh, hi there. Charles Miller. Yeah, I'm a deputy with the Dargis County Sheriff's Department over in Kansas. Dorothy. That's good.
After I had done my first assembly and I showed it to Mac Welch, who's our executive producer and also played Bob in the film, who obviously had been involved all throughout, but also Mike Hull, our executive producer, who knew nothing about the film, hadn't read the script, so forth and so on. He's just an executive producer because he's a part of Films on Consignment, but he was in New York at the time. So after we moved here and I put the film together, I showed it to him and his buddy W. Axel Foley, who is his filmmaking collaborator. And the three of them gave me some very good notes to take out of that first assembly. One of them, which Mike gave me, was that in the scene where Eddie goes to Crazy Mary's and Gracie doesn't show up and he talks to Kirsten, that for as mysterious a figure as Eddie is, he gave up way too much information in that scene to Kirsten about how he felt about Gracie. And at first I wasn't sure. I realized that he was probably right, and I wasn't sure how to fix it because, as we mentioned in the commentary, and as you may have noticed yourself, we chose this shooting style where we shot a lot of two shots and wides and not a lot of coverage. And that's the kind of thing that's very hard to go in and pull out lines because you kind of just have one long take and it's very awkward. You basically have to jump cut, which you can't do. What I realized when I went in and took another look at the scene, that all of the lines he was talking about there came within 2 drinks on Eddie's beer. He picks up the beer, he drinks, he puts it down, he says the stuff that doesn't work, takes a drink, puts the beer down and says, I'm going to go home. What I did have was the cutaways of the band in Crazy Mary's. So what I realized I could do, and the way that it plays in the movie, is he picks up the beer, takes a drink, we cut away to the band, cut back to him putting the beer down, and he says, I'm going to go home. Well, here's the entire scene so you can see what he said between those 2 drinks that we determined was Eddie being a little too in touch with his feelings, I guess.
Oh, hey.
Hey, she didn't come.
Oh.
Sorry.
You know what? It's for the best.
No, it's really not. She needs...
No, things are too complicated for me right now. I don't need to get mixed up with anybody.
I am gonna ring her neck.
She's not interested. And we just met. So, this is best.
Great.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go home.
Well, hang on.
What?
He came all the way out here. We should at least get one dance with a pretty girl.